All right, it's on. Okay, this is the next episode, because I don't know if the other one's going to be the first one or not. We'll see. But of First Contacts, we have a name now, which is an improvement. And I'm sitting here with Nick Venezia. And what's interesting is, the premise of this show is to go through your phone and find the most interesting people in your phone and then have a conversation with them. So you were on my list. Then I did an episode with Josh first, and he was like, okay, well, Nick. I was like, no, you can't use Nick. Then I was thinking about it, and I was like, you're probably, of all of our friends, every single person would put you on the list of like one of the most interesting people in their phones.
Nice.
So I thought that was kind of funny, like to be, it's just one thing for one person to have an opinion. But if enough people share it, then it's based in some kind of reality.
It has foundation.
Yeah. So I always think of you as this weird internet wizard that I don't understand how it is you do what you do.
Yeah.
But, for anybody who doesn't know you, roughly, like, how do you do internet wizardry and make vast sums of money?
What we focus on is doing the ads and making sure that companies, customers are being shown ads, and we make sure that it's relevant to the audience, so it's a positive interaction for everyone.
This is all like social media stuff though, right?
It's done on social, but the ads themselves it'll also carry over to TV advertising. We'll target people, based off of certain TV shows that they're watching, or as TV shows are going on live, we can target those people.
Wait, but how does the social media know what your TV is watching?
People, the data gets resold, a lot of it, but for that, it would be talking about Twitter, and it would be using hashtags.
Oh, so if you're like, maybe I'm dating myself, but if you're on Facebook and you're like, oh, I like this show, then you end up in that data pool?
Correct. That would be the way that would work.
Social media how long has it even been around though? Like how long ago was MySpace? It's got to be, is it 10 years?
It was over 10.
A little over 10.
I know the very first Twitter account that I ever worked on that was a technical client his name was Krista Wolf, and he was the co-founder of MySpace.
So what year was that?
That was about 5 years ago.
So in less than 5 years, there's a whole new advertising industry.
Yeah.
Is it very different than like the other ones? Like, how did you even fall into social media advertising?
Well,
because from what I know about you is that you were like a stock guy, like mostly for fun, and then that's a big transition from like finance to the pioneering field of social media.
Yeah. Well, what happened was when I graduated college and I was finance focused, during the recession, there were no jobs in finance. And I tried. I even got licensed in the industry. Still no luck. And what happened was I get a call from the Department of Education saying that they're going to garnish my wages. And
what were you doing for a living at the time?
I couldn't get a job. So my reaction back to them was garnish whatever you want. I live at home. Mm-hmm. Even like the girlfriend I had at the time, she was saying like you have to figure something out. I'm living at home with my parents. I can't get a job. I can't even go volunteer and work for free.
How old are you at this point?
25, 26. So what happened was they said they were going to garnish my wages, and they also, threatened to garnish my Nana, who had co-signed on a student loan with me, her Social Security, and I was like, this is bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Wait, her Social Security?
It's garnishable with student loans.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So back then it was more raw on Twitter, where they would have things like tweet your senator, and your tweets would show up on CNN and CNBC. And so I signed up on Twitter, and I voiced my opinion about income inequality and the broken promise to students. I used all of the financial modeling that I had learned to make it where I was leveraging my message to reach the greatest amount of people.
Okay, see that right there, that's like in my dumb monkey brain, that's like internet wizardry.
So I took all of the financial stuff with the way how people pick and choose stocks.
Uh-huh.
You know, can do economic trends. So they say the economy is going to be good or bad. And what I did was I took those same underlying principles and applied them to social.
Like betting if somebody's tweet was going to get a lot of hits?
So I knew, for example, my tweets, what would hit, what topic it had to be, how long it had to be, if it needed to include a hashtag, the context of the tweet.
So was anybody else doing this before you?
Not at that level.
Nobody thought of
No
doing
one,
it before?
there was software companies that were doing this kind of stuff, but no one, I was sitting at home using Excel and doing this to do it.
Was there a lot of trial and error, or did you
It was
like
all
have
trial
it
and error.
right away?
No, it was all trial and error. There was times where I would get retweeted 6, 8, 10, 12,000 times. And I started from ground zero. Before my account got hacked, it was up to like 60,000 Twitter followers. It was one of the most followed accounts in the investment industry. So I was really, it was devastating when the account got hacked, and I watched it dwindle away for 3 weeks where I couldn't get into it, and they just turned it into a spam
Oof.
bot, and it just lost all the followers.
Wow.
That was really devastating. And what happened was I built it, and I started to get approached by people to do their digital. And one of the first people whose account I ever took was Krista Wolf. I was approached by his team and to build his account.
This is the MySpace guy?
And Krista Wolf
It's
is
kind
the
of
MySpace
funny
guy.
to think of MySpace on Twitter.
Well, it's his personal, Twitter profile. And I liked it. I thought it was a real honor and a compliment because it's Mr. Social Media himself. And yet here I was, considered to be at that caliber of building it. And then from there, I went on and pitched the city of Pasadena on building a Twitter account. It's a reverse 911 system. And they were like my second or third client.
So all the other people that were studying financial at the time of the '09 crash, did nobody was able to get a job?
I was mentioning this to someone earlier. The majority of the people that I graduated with, none of them are working in the sector that they went to school for.
I feel like that's the case across the board.
It's
for
across every
everybody.
department. It's because what happened was when you graduated, it was more of a grabbing, take whatever you could, get any job you could for living, just to be able to survive. It wasn't, let me hold out and wait till the right job comes up that I went to school for.
Yeah, we all got scared. But even for me though, because I went to school and became a nurse at that. I got right after 2008. I went to school and became an RN, and now I do nothing with that degree. And that wasn't from a economic starvation standpoint. It seems like every single person that we know, or in our generation or whatever, just went to school for something and then did something else. No, I guess there's exceptions. My wife's a teacher. She went to school to be a teacher. That's exactly what she is. But it seems like there's a lot of us.
Yeah, it doesn't happen in the previous generations. If you look and start looking into it, you'll notice that a lot of them didn't do that.
Do you think if you had kids that you would want them to go to school, or because you were able to basically just brain your way into a completely burgeoning new industry?
There's certain things that are important about school, but where you gain the most experience is actually just doing it. So I know from that standpoint, I would want to send them to a school where they would have a heavy focus on having the student work in the actual workforce, working with companies, at companies, so they're gaining that hands-on experience.
Like internships?
Right. It's one thing to learn about what to do in a textbook. It's entirely different when you're doing it. But you need to still have a grasp of the underlying principles where schooling is important.
But isn't that kind of the first job after school anyway? I mean, when somebody hires you as a new whatever with just your degree, they pretty much know you don't know the job, and they're going to have to train you to do that.
But the idea would be where it would be a school that would put them, so you identify what fields you would want to go to. Say it's what I do. then they would also at the same time put you in the different roles of an agency, where you would be working in finance 1 month or a semester of the agency financial arm. You'd be working 1 month in the copywriting of the agency finance. So you get a full understanding of how the agency works before you enter the workforce on day one.
That's an interesting, that's like a take your kid to work day, but all the time.
Yeah. And I think that is the most important way of learning this stuff.
Did you do go like the test where they send you spend a day at school at a job? You didn't have to do that?
No.
They sent me to culinary school,
That's
which
funny.
I thought was really funny because I took the test, and it was I purposely answered all opposite things. So it was like, I like being outdoors, or I love the computer, and I would just click all of the ones that contradicted each other, and they send my smart ass to culinary
That's
school. I'd be curious to see what they would have sent you.
Yeah. But I think that's the best way to educate a student now, would be that, where people need to have more of a holistic approach at the world, at jobs, at working, where it's working as a team, and to get more out of the cubicle mindset.
Yeah.
And to start to become more in a creative workforce.
Do you think that as, like, because your industry sprang up really quickly, like we're talking 5 years, do you think that your industry will still be here in another 5 or 10 years, or will it just keep?
The industry didn't sprout up 5 or 10 years, it evolved. You have to remember that where you watch Mad Men, for example, and those advertising people of Madison, they're doing ads and putting ads in magazines. That's where people's eyes are. Now, the shift of where people are always looking has taken place, and people are looking now on mobile, they're on their cell phones, they're on apps, they're looking and watching YouTube videos and Netflix. So you're placing the ad and where the eyes are. So it's still the same industry of advertising. You're just the only thing that's changing in it is the medium where the ad is taking place.
I wonder why they picked up on it like so much quicker than like the music industry, who didn't jump on the technological
The
wave.
music industry was scared shitless because of the fact how people could pirate and share their music. And they went and tried to protect it, versus other organizations where they were like, okay, we don't really have a chance against protecting piracy. We're going to have to share it. Let's figure out a way how we can charge for it, which is the whole issue that the printing and publishers had, and they are experiencing, is because no one's still reading that daily newspaper. Everyone's consuming the media online. How do you make it but how do you able to generate revenue from that?
That makes sense.
And so that's the whole issue that the print industry ran into.
So now that there's social media, which didn't exist before, do you think...
It's a form of dialogue.
But do you think that there's going to always be social media, or is technology going to innovate to beyond social media?
Well, I wouldn't think of social media as social media. Think of it as online dialogue. The reason why I say that is there's actually been a shift in dialogue in the way people talk. Way back when, it was, say, Morse code, then letters and whatnot were also a form of dialogue. Phone calls, eventually went to email. And each time that happened, it was a shift in ways of actual communication, where phone calls became more of text messaging became Facebook posts, etc. And what happened is it's an actual shift in the way we communicate with one another. And the current medium that we're at is social media.
Do you think that that's we're headed in a good direction or a bad direction? Because I've heard both sides, right? You get people saying like, that there's a lack of depth with like text messaging, for instance. My parents refuse to text message because there's no nuance to it. It's very like, be there in 5 minutes or whatever. So like as those things, or Twitter like limits the characters you can use. So as those things like put these constraints on speech.
Well, Twitter is actually limited because of the restraint on text messaging. Because text back then used to max out at 160 characters. That's why a tweet's 140 characters. Because you would have to be able to include your username in the text message you sent to Twitter. So that's how come it picked 140.
Do you still think, though, that's is it a trend in the positive direction or negative direction, or you have no idea?
It's a trend where it's leading to an open environment, where everything is open and instant, and it's the way dialogue has changed. people live a much more public life. They're open and willing to give away their information, where before you would covet and protect your email address or phone number, technically. And now you're giving it away when you do a social sign-in and give someone your access to your Facebook page.
Yeah, or Ralph's, just to get your, beans at $1 less.
Well, they're reselling all of that information to the networks, to the advertisers, who are then advertising to you, because now you're getting placed into a pool.
So are there like information brokers then, like stockbrokers? Is there like who takes that data and finds the other person who wants to buy it and says, I've got
big companies.
Like Luke loves frickin' cans of tuna.
Yeah, they're huge companies, and Facebook actually has contracts with them, and same with Twitter and other third-party ad networks, where they're essentially directories and databases. So all of your Rouse data, it also knows not only are you a Rouse Club member, but you're also a Walgreens member. And it interlinks that data together to start to create a customer profile about you. Mm-hmm. It also then knows, for example, what your Netflix resells, potentially your movie viewing history. So now it knows what type of customer you are and what type of video or content you like to consume.
So if I watch a movie on Netflix and then I don't post about it on my Twitter account, does the data still get lumped together?
It matters if Netflix is reselling your data or not. Some of these networks and platforms and tools that you're using does resell data. Mm-hmm. So you have to look in to see that. If they resell your data and your usage, like Apple, you have to there's a box on it that you actually have to click and say, like, no, don't track me with the ads. Because what it's doing is reselling out your data and your information of where you are.
Like Big Brother for your wallet.
Exactly. Where this way, if it sees that you're there somewhere, it'll make an ad show up. So it's a location-based advertising as well.
I feel like that's why it's not surprising when you hear like, oh, the NSA or some security organization is monitoring all of your calls, and it's like, well, the private sector is doing it this whole time too. Why wouldn't government or whatever do the exact same thing?
Yeah, well, the networks do, and you give your access a lot of access to like your Facebook app that's on your phone, and your phone is technically always listening because of the way you have features like, say, Hey Siri or Google Assistant. And they're always listening. And some of them, like Facebook, for example, if you give it certain permissions, it will constantly have the microphone on, and that data is being used.
That's so bizarre.
So you will start to see ads if you talk about travel that are
That's why that
related.
happens?
Yes.
That's interesting. It happens because of the microphone.
Sometimes because of the microphone.
That's always on.
Or based off of your web history.
Is there a bot that does that?
It's built into the app, and then that's just the way their apps.
It just like types up everything you're saying and then goes, oh, this guy mentioned dildos. I'm going to take why did I land on dildos? But probably because David was just here. But all right, but dildos, and I'm going to now put it in your social media feed because you had a conversation about it. If there's dildos in my Facebook feed because I'm having this interview with you right now, I'm going to be pissed.
Well, no, but we could do something like say that you're looking for a trip or traveling, and we could say traveling to Mexico. And based off of how you have your Facebook permissions, it would technically probably show up with travel to Mexico. So it's really interesting the way it works. Let me actually get the Facebook app open.
Do you use this to your advantage? Like, personally, not for your job?
I have everything turned off.
So nobody...
I disable all of those abilities for it.
But you still must get banner ads, right?
Yeah, but on Facebook, for example, they're not relevant to me.
They're just guessing?
It's guess stuff. It's where big brands are just doing it where they're just buying impressions.
Do you think we're going to have TV advertisements eventually, or will those all just go away?
What do you mean?
Well, like, the effectiveness, as I always wondered that, the effectiveness of like a Super Bowl ad, because they know so many eyes are on them, but you're also not, it's like a shotgun approach, right? There's a lot of eyes on this thing, but what are the chances that X percentage of those eyes will buy your product? Whereas the social media thing, gathering all your data, they know you're interested in that kind of product.
Well, that's a way how advertising has evolved, where advertisers are able to be held more accountable. So
By their clients.
Yes. Where now you can start to tie actual revenue dollars to advertising. When before you buy a billboard and you just have an idea of how many impressions and what the potential revenue generated. With social, if you're with a proper marketing company, you will be able to forecast actual revenue generation. But what's interesting though is the way how advertising is. It's all about this listening, and the way how everyone has these Amazon Echoes, for example, and they're constantly listening. That's a big issue, is how is that data being shared? Because if you have something that's constantly listening to you, then it knows everything, especially given the AI formulas and algorithms that are being done, and just the way they're computing that data, and because they're able to digest it. It makes a whole whirlwind of problems from an advertising and privacy standpoint.
Okay, how from an advertising standpoint? I can see from a privacy standpoint because there's something recording everything in your house.
Because the advertisers have to make it then where it's understood that it's acceptable for them to be able to capture that kind of data.
But do they advertise? I don't have an
Well,
Alexa.
for example, are you
it is.
comfortable with connecting your phone to Facebook?
Yeah.
And uploading your contacts to see if you have friends?
Yeah, I get asked that.
Then there you go. That's you having reached a certain comfort level. So when will that comfort level happen, where it's okay to have something constantly listen to you? Because Facebook, with those contacts, it now knows who your friends are. It advertises. There's certain advertising objectives where you can say, make ads run to people who's friends of.
Wow.
Or people who like XYZ. And this starts for them to start to build these directories and databases. And you're uploading the data and you're saying, these are my friends. And then, of course, your group of friends has user demographic data, traits about them, the same way how you're doing this whole podcast, where there's going to be constant traits that are going to be able to be identified throughout everyone that you've seen. Mm-hmm. So your group is going to be limited to that sense. The same thing happens. There's demographic data. There's going to be certain demographic data across all of the people that are going to line up. By you uploading all of your friends to Facebook, it now has created what your demographic data is about you.
So is that how Facebook makes money then? Because Facebook is free.
Facebook is as good as the data.
Are they making money selling the data?
That's how they do it with ads. It's all ad revenue.
That's interesting.
So by you uploading that to it, because now you have to remember all of those people that are your friends have also, say, Ralph's cards or Walgreens cards or, whatever, that it has been resold to, Facebook. And Facebook has that in their databases. So now what they're doing is they're saying, okay, Luke's people also shop at Walgreens. And that's how they're able to start identifying that. And they're also this type of football fan. So you're able to start to fit into these buckets and pools. And this is how it allows for targeting or the ads to be so relevant.
It puts you in a niche.
Right, and that's how this whole niche targeting works. But that all started from you accepting the fact that you're going to upload your contacts to Facebook. If you hadn't done that in stage one, Facebook would never know the demographics of your social circles.
It wouldn't know it by who your Facebook friends are?
It would be a different set. Your phone number is one thing, and Facebook friend is another. So they actually have different weights, and because one is worth more than the other. If you have a phone number versus a Facebook friend, that's worth more. Because a Facebook friend, people have multiple Facebook friends because they'll Facebook someone before they say I have a phone number. Mm-hmm. A phone number is a more intimate thing. So there's a weighted average there.
Wow.
So you're literally handing over your demo data of your audience, of your friends. And as you're saying, these are my people who I'm hanging out with.
So do you think Facebook's always going to be around, or do you think it's going to go the way of MySpace?
Facebook will be around for a long time. What Facebook did is it changed the game. It made it where it's a platform for people to share and to reach a lot of people and tell their personal story to their family and friends. It's very useful. It's the same way how email is. It's, again, a shift in dialogue.
So when they create these new ones, it's like even now there's Snapchat, which I refused to get on because I didn't want another Facebook or another Instagram, but they pop up pretty frequently. And as the technology gets better and better, we're probably going to have more and more of those. So aren't advertisers and you going to have to adapt quicker and quicker to be the
Yes.
first ones into those new platforms?
Yes, and we do. That's part of our goal. For example, Snapchat's ads platform for consumers just recently debuted. And that's something that we have to be heavily on, and we have to know it really well, really fast from day one.
Is it pretty similar between the different platforms? Or
Well,
when a new one comes out, do you have to start from scratch all over?
When a new one comes out, the underlying principles are still intact, but there's different ways. So it'll say you can target this way, you can do this or that. So it gives you certain parameters that you have to work within, and like constraints.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a matter of how you can manipulate those constraints data-wise to produce your end results. So it's just a different tool set that you need to figure out how to produce the same output.
So what do you call what you do? What's your job title? I know you own your own business, but when you are giving your elevator pitch to someone, you're saying like, "Hey, I'm Nick, and because to me it's internet wizard." But
Yeah.
what do you call what you're doing?
What we do is we, generate engagement for brands.
Generate engagement through social media.
Right, so we generate engagement for brands every day in a digital world. The reason why we use the term engagement is because people clicking or talking or liking a post from a brand, that's technically an endorsement in one sense, and we're helping generate that for the brand. So engagements also lead to the end result of the desired outcome.
So then as we get more and more digital, this is something I think about a lot because I'm on my computer all day for work, and I know you are even more than I am. As we get more and more involved in the digital and less in the physical, do you think that'll balance out, or do you think we're off the rails? We're headed to because like VR is a big thing now, where people put on the thing and they're completely immersed now, even sensory in another world. And do you think like we're just going to keep
we've already
going?
watched a shift like that happen. The second Apple and the little earpods came out, earbuds, and people started walking around everywhere with their earphones plugged in and listening to music as they were walking. They're tuning out, and that's like the first wave of removing that human connection of people just meeting each other on the street and talking. This one had their headphones in, it's no talk. Like, don't do it. So it's kind of a wall, where before, if they didn't have their headphones in, you could make small talk with them. So it's starting to remove that human interaction. Now what you're seeing is it's gone a step further, where someone just has their phone in their hand and they're looking down. They're not looking up. They're not looking at other people and seeing what's around them. That's a big problem with advertising as well, is because no one's looking at that billboard, because you're sitting in the back of your Uber looking at your phone.
But you're still on a screen all the time.
Right, and that's the problem, is that you remove that human interaction.
Do you think that there's going to be a pushback to finding it again, or finding a balance, or are we just going to go so far off the rails?
Evolving. So I think that there's always still going to be the human interaction. It's just going to be less of. So it'll be less of, but at a higher quality.
What do you mean then of a higher quality? Because how are you supposed to meet somebody and have a higher quality engagement in the first place if you have earbuds in and you're looking at your phone, so all of your senses are away from...
Well, having the quality time is where you actually step aside from those and you actually turn those off and set those away, and then you interact with the person.
But you'd have to meet the person in the first place, right?
Well, that's why you have Match.com and those different sites.
Yeah, right back to it, huh?
So it all now depends on the digital world.
Do they advertise to you based off your dating profile stuff too?
All that data gets resold. Like your status on if you put single, married, in a relationship, all of that gets resold. you're recently engaged, it's resold. If you recently moved, if you're potentially talking about moving, it gets resold.
So they're like, you swiped right on a bunch of black girls with big asses, so here's an advertisement for...
Yeah, it'll do that.
God, that doesn't scare you on some level? It's kind of scary when you think about it.
Well, what's you have to realize is look at the youth and, how open they are to this open world, this open lifestyle of being willing to give away their data and all their information for free.
You think we're going to sell our own information in the future?
You're selling it to say unlock the next level of a game or to receive the 50 bonus coins. If you say share like on Facebook, you're already sharing the data.
It seems kind of sinister. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a hermit.
No, it's scary when you think about it, but it's all run by brands and advertisements.
So, what about like artificial intelligence getting better and better and better?
Well, that's a big thing with advertising that's going to come down to it. There was one time, for example, I don't know if I ever told you the story, but I got asked to work on a campaign and potentially do a TED Talk.
Yeah, I think you did tell me that.
And I asked them if I could help with the media buy to sell tickets. And what I did was, because if I talked and gave the talk, I was going to talk about how I sold tickets. What I did was, over the course of about 3 to 5 days, we set up everything, we ran the campaign, we sold all the tickets. We ended up selling the place out, pretty much. Because I got a call and saying, okay, we need to turn off the ad stuff, we're all sold out now. And I'm sitting there and I'm asking, how many tickets were sold, from digital, did they sell? And I'm sitting there looking at the numbers because I have the numbers on Facebook. And what had happened was we had generated off of $48 in ads over $21,000 of ticket sales.
Wow.
For this local event. It's a TEDx. Now you're wondering, okay.
Wait, $48
was the ad spend.
And it generated 21,000. What's the percentage on that?
I'm not even sure what the percentage of return is.
It's got to be like 50,000% or something.
And those are coming directly from the analytics of Facebook. So it's Facebook saying, here's how many sales happened, because it's based off of, it's connected to the website. Mm-hmm. So Facebook's saying, okay, this many sales happened because they saw our ad on Facebook. And it just ties the 2 dots together. So this person clicked from Facebook, went to the page, and checked out.
So when you sell that to, in this case, you were selling tickets to.
Well, no, this is where it gets crazy. Is now, okay, how did you do that type of thing? Everyone can target, but this is where something that AI is going to be able to start to do. What I had done was, to be able to be so successful at that, is my strategy was to do something out of the box. And so I'm looking at the list of the speakers that they have. And I'm like, okay, what can I do that will stop, people and get their attention immediately? And, a great headline works, everything like that, but it needs to be something big, like a photo. And it needs to just stop them. So what I did was I did photos. And the colors that I thought of doing was people's alma maters of where they went to college. Because they have ingrained those colors in their brain for those 4 years, and a lot of times they have a positive memory with them. Where if you see something that's the colors of your alma mater, you'll stop and look at it.
Yeah, it's like those UCLA, USC guys.
Yeah. So what I did was I made the ads the color of the speaker's alma maters. So if the person went to UCLA, the speaker went to UCLA, then the ads that were showing him speaking were also in UCLA colors. But they were only displayed to people that went to UCLA. So now the people that I'm trying to sell the tickets to also went to UCLA. So as they're scrolling down their newsfeed, and if they see a big block image that's in their colors of their school, they're going to go back up and read it. And and as they read it, they're going to see that it's a relevant message. And you just made it where you're on the same team. Because you're showing a fellow alum, same team, which makes the sale of it that much easier. because now you've aligned their interests and you're showing this great product, and they get to go watch, you have this great product offering of a ticket to go watch a fellow alum as a thought leader who also happened to be the same major as you, who graduated right around the same time as you.
You got that specific?
Yeah, go and speak. And that's the type of stuff that Facebook has. But AI, for example, no one had done that, and even my Facebook reps at the time I did that couldn't get over it. And they actually printed out, apparently were sharing the stats of the ad campaign to one another. And we're just like, can you believe this? And they, all because it was done with the alma mater colors. And that's an example where even the network itself was taken aback. But that being able to create that human connection like that instantaneously and gather someone's trust and love, that's a work of art. But what's happening now with AI is those type of moments where, that was done just by a brilliant advertising move. Computers are now going to do that constantly. That type of level of stuff. And AI, where it's no longer a person orchestrating that, where it's just going to evolve and evolve, where it's going to become so on point and precise of what you're being displayed and sold that you just give up.
So what are you going to do for a job when that happens?
Be out of this industry. Hopefully in 5 years.
Okay, let me ask you another question then. Since it's an entirely service industry that you're providing, there's no tangible goods that you're selling. So if you, in that instance, you're like, I'm going to spend $48 and I'm going to generate $21,000 in ticket sales, how do you determine don't tell me if you don't want to, but I'm just curious. How do you determine what the markup is on something like that? So you're like, well, I'm going to generate you 21,000 or whatever it is. It I'm going to generate this much money and then I would like a piece of that pie, or is it I would like a percentage of whatever your sales are? Is it different per client?
It's different per client. Some of them are where you charge a percentage of, a flat fee for your work. Others are where you take a percentage of the spend, how much you're spending to buy all the ads. And other ones are also commission-based and performance-based, where if you hit certain numbers or certain sales numbers, you receive a, bonus, essentially.
Yeah, I'd be pretty pleased if I had the ad spend and then I spent $48.
Yeah.
But that must be hard to repeat though, right? To find clever approaches to do the same thing?
Yeah. Well, there was another one I did too, where I did it with Twitter, where we had a client that we had identified. She was a fitness influencer. Her name's Emily Sky. She's the #1 fitness influencer on Facebook, a lot of people would say, in the world.
Emily Sky?
Yeah.
I don't know her. I'll have to look her up.
She's based out of Australia. And what happened was I was contacted by her team about doing a campaign for Twitter because they wanted to try Twitter for selling their product, which was a at-home meal plan, workout routine, all of those things. And it was an online community that people could sign up for. And there were certain fees, and they would buy different packages. So the thing is that on Twitter and other networks, if you're charging weight loss or fitness, it's a very expensive industry where, you're going to be paying a high cost per click,
because so many other people are buying up that space.
Because there's just so many other people buying up that space and big brands. So what we did was we ran a test to what her target demographic was, and we're doing this on Twitter. So we're essentially taking her phone book of contacts and seeing what unique character traits can we find. And of that, we identified that it was around 60 to 70% of her audience was obsessed with cheese and chocolate.
That's why they're working out in the first place.
At-home fitness plan. So we turned around and we started bidding after cheese and chocolate. Converted like mad. So our cost on Twitter, the way how billing goes on Twitter is they charge, every time a person clicks on a tweet, likes a tweet, it's an engagement is how they bill. So an action costs a certain amount. And on Twitter, we had gotten it down so low where it was 1 penny. And if you're spending $20, $30, $40, $50,000 at 1 penny, if you can get below that 0.01 to a lower metric, that's a big deal. So the way how their accounting works is that it's based off the US. So I requested to switch it to the Australian dollar, which has a lower valuation of the penny.
Okay.
So the client was now saving 30% every time it hit 0.01.
Gotcha.
So it was a 30% currency switch for the client. They covered our fee right there.
That's awesome. So when you see all these people who have these social media empires, how many of them are using services like what you're doing? Or I guess
They're not.
It's organic, most of them?
It's growth hacking. They're using the latest tricks to grow their accounts. The social media influencers.
I guess I always wonder that when you watch an account or like a podcast or a TV show or like somebody's Instagram, for instance, account, where it's like at what point are they doing it themselves and curating the content, and then all of a sudden they're like, whoa, I'm selling 500 t-shirts a day, I better, one, get more inventory, but two, find somebody else to kick this up to the next level. Is that like a pretty common, have you noticed any common patterns there where people are like, okay, now I need to step up my game and get, an electronic marketing, an engagement marketing
I know
person?
with me personally, the first time I ever had a tweet go crazy, where I was receiving so many retweet notifications I couldn't turn the phone off. Because I couldn't get in between the notifications to get it to hit the power off button. That was the first time I ever realized, oh shit, I have something on Twitter. That was my moment. But everyone will hit those moments. It depends on, when it is and what platform they're on or what they're selling. But everyone will have their own self-defined moment of that.
It's like that snowball effect.
Yeah. Where it's that, oh shit, what did I just create?
Wow. Well, we're at the 42.5-minute mark. So I want to transition a little bit to this list you gave me.
Right.
Because I learned from the first episode with Josh, where I actually had him create the list on the spot at this point, and we had so much dead air that I was like, okay, I'm not going to do this again. But you actually gave me quite a few names on here. So if you were going to chop this down to 3, which ones would it be? Or just point at it, and I want to ask you a little bit about why, of all the people in your phone especially, do you find those people to be the most interesting people?
Well, let me just run down each person, and you can kind of tell me which one you think is most
No,
important.
because I don't want to curate it. I want it to be entirely the opinion of the guest.
Would you like to be more of a marketing standpoint?
I'm not answering that question. It is the premise is, who are the most interesting people in your phone?
I'm going to go with Lois Lee.
Okay. So who's Lois? Just one quick sentence and why you find her to be one of the most interesting people in your phone.
She started and runs Children of the Night, which is a nonprofit. What they do is they take underage prostitutes off the streets anywhere in the world, and they fly them here into LA, into a shelter here in Van Nuys. And they put them through school, they get them tutors, they educate them, they clothe them, take them off on events, and they just show them that they matter in the world.
That is extremely interesting, actually.
So she's someone I think which would be and I've known her since I was born, basically. I grew up best friends with her son.
Okay.
We were next door neighbors.
Cool. All right, Lois Lee. So give me 2 more, and we'll go from there.
The other one I would go with is David Herman. David actually works with us. What makes him unique is the spirit of life that he has, I guess you would say. His viewpoint on life, his happy-go-lucky attitude, his, always seeing the sun is green. And he's done a lot of great stuff with it. He works a lot with the homeless. We've donated before and will continue to donate to one of the ones that he actually runs, and he actually donates his personal paychecks to, which is a food truck that actually goes to Venice and Skid Row and delivers food for free to all of the homeless people.
That's awesome.
The other one I'm going to go with, just because I know you're doing a podcast, is going to be Nick Compton. The reason why I'm going to say him is because he's with Jake Paul. He's in charge of the operations. So from a getting started standpoint, and if you want to go down that rabbit hole, getting him is the way to go, because that will get you your 1 million subscribers.
Well, I don't even know if I want 1 million subscribers,
but
honestly.
That is also the way how you go, because he has a really interesting story, because he's from England and he's recently here. And he has that young outlook and on life. And he's, he has the entrepreneurship spirit.
Okay.
I met with him in person only once, but I've talked to him before a bunch of times. And he is definitely someone I think that would take you down a very unique path.
Okay, cool. I thought it was kind of interesting that 2 of your 3 names, what was interesting about them to you was their relationship to charity or to giving back. I don't want to say like that was unexpected, because you're a very giving person too, but I just it's hard not to use the word interesting every other fucking word, but it's interesting to me who other people find interesting and why.
Yeah. Well, Lois has done some amazing work, and it's remarkable the lives that she's touched.
I'll start with her. All right, man,
She's
thanks.
currently in Rome. She'll probably be there for
I'll
the next
start
time.
with the next guy until she gets back.
But she's definitely someone that you would want to meet with.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Nick Venezia, very
Oh,
much.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you, everyone.